Nonverbal Communication in the Classroom by Luz Maria Costa and Monica Ramirez. We are currently studying in the 6th semester of the BA in English Language Teaching.
This research is our final project for our discourse analysis. Throughout the course, we touch different topics related to written and spoken discourse. Focusing on spoken discourse, various concepts were seen. In this investigation, we were expected to combine these concepts with any interesting topic of our choice regarding English language teaching.
The purpose of our investigation is the following: to identify how nonverbal communication helps students' understanding in the classroom.
Abstract. Teachers are known to use nonverbal communication. In this investigation, we will analyze two videos that are focused on English language teachers, their use of nonverbal communication in the classroom, and how it affects students' comprehension of the language.
Our research questions are the following. First, how does nonverbal communication help students' understanding? Second, in which stage from the Birmingham model does this happen?
We use our analytical tools. For this investigation, we analyzed two videos of two teachers of English in the classroom.
Key concepts: nonverbal communication, speech act, the Birmingham model, reiteration, teacher talking time and student talking time.
Key concepts. Number 1, nonverbal communication. It's the process of communication through sending and receiving wordless cues between people. Messages can be communicated through gestures and touch, body language or posture, physical distance, facial expressions, and eye contact, which are all types of nonverbal communication.
The Birmingham model. The Birmingham model consists of three basic elements. First, the initiation. Second, the response. And thirdly, the follow-up. If the utterance contains an initiation and a response, this is known as a transaction. If it contains the three, it is known as an exchange. We have an example. How are you? Great. That's good. Person A is the initiation, person B says the response, and finally person A says the follow-up. The first two, person A and B, is a transaction, and A, B, and A is the complete exchange.
Speech act. The speech act is a bit of text, written or oral, that addresses what one is doing with the language. For example, requests, commands, greetings, and so on.
Reiteration. It's basically restating an item in a later part of the discourse by direct repetition, which is basically repeating the word or the phrase and using synonyms.
Then we have TTT, teachers talking time, and STT, students talking time. This corresponds to the period of time each participant dominates in the conversation.
Our observations are: the first observation will consist on observing the teacher and the nonverbal communication she or he uses. The second observation will focus on students' reactions or responses in the classroom. The third observation will be to identify in what part of the Birmingham model these previous observations are taking place.
Feel free to take any notes if you identified any non-verbal communication from the teacher and the students' responses.
Video 1.
So her real name was Greta Gustafsson. Then Maurits gave her the name of Garbo, right? So that was the first time. And then another time? Yes, Harriet Brown. So how many times? Twice, 2 times, right? So she changed her name just twice, 2 times. So did she give interviews? Yes or no? Okay, check the paragraph in the line 11, 12. She didn't give interviews. So the answer is no, she didn't. She didn't give interviews. Okay? It's in line 12. Now we have exercise number 2. Here is a summary of Greta Garbo's line. Put the lines in the correct order. So you have here a summary. Do you understand summary? It's a brief, yes, description of events. For example,
Now we have video number 2.
How are you all doing? Fine, that's good. Are you tired? Upset? Really? Are you having a lot of work these days? Yeah, exams, more or less. I know. How did we define incredible? Do you remember? Something that is amazing, very good. What else? Something that is great, something that is wonderful, something that tends to be fabulous. That's right, fabulous. In the case of the past perfect tense, remember, you are always going to be using auxiliary have. But what happens, this auxiliary is always going to be used with all the pronouns, I, you, they, he, she, right? And what happens, the verb that follows auxiliary have is always going to be conjugated into the past participle form. You know, every single time we deal with verbs, you are going to be having like 3 different categories. You have the verb into the simple form, you have the simple past form of the verb, and then you have the past participle form of the verb, right? So this time we are going to be dealing with the past participle form, right? And you know, in the case of the simple past tense, you use auxiliary didn't every single time you want to make negative sentences, right? And you know, when you want to make questions, use auxiliary did, right? That's what happens now. Something really important. Every time we are contrasting the simple past with the past perfect tense, you have to pay attention to connector when. So what is the main clue? Connector when is going to be helping you to introduce the simple past tense, and automatically the other part of the sentence goes with the past perfect form, right? Do you remember that I have been telling you that the English language tends to be very flexible, Carlos? And sometimes connector when appears at the beginning of the sentence? Not really? That's good. So how many are you in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, you are going to be working in groups of 3 people, right? Number 1, Pepe number 2, number 3, number 4, number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sylvia, 1, 2, 3, number 4. Can you get together with the people who have exactly the same number as you?
Yo.
People with number 1, can you get over here, please? People with number 2, you get over here. People with number 3, you get right there, exactly number 4 over there. So, this is what I want you to do. In a piece of paper, I want you to write 5 sentences in which you use The simple past and the past perfect, and of course, connector 1, which is going to be in charge of interrupting the action itself, right? So you write 5 sentences in total. At the end of the paper, you write your names and you give it to me. Is it clear what you're going to be doing? Yes? So we can start, please. So do you finish with all the sentences? Do you write your name?
Bueno, pero ya es lo último, ya.
Did you identify any relevant nonverbal communication in the 2 videos?
Just in case you didn't, we included the transcriptions of the 2 videos. These transcriptions are color-coded. As you can see, the transaction is in blue and the exchanges can be found in red. Here's the examples. For the transcription of video 1, in example number 1, we have an exchange. We also included the nonverbal communication in italics. To signal the end of the exchange, there is a / and it also indicates the beginning of a new exchange. At the end of this example, we have the transaction in blue as well as the nonverbal communication in italics. Here are other examples that can be found in video number 1. We have example number 4, which is an exchange, and example number 5, which is a transaction.
Now we have transcription for video number 2. Here we can identify that a nonverbal communication such as nodding can be considered a response, as we can see in our first transaction. Here we have some other examples. Example number 3. Here we combine example number 4 and example number 5. The reason why it's because in example number 4, the teacher initiates the transaction, but since he didn't have a response from his students, in example number 5, he initiates again this transaction, and students respond with a non-verbal communication. Finally, we have an example of exchange, and here we can appreciate many different non-verbal communication examples as well.
Nonverbal communication identified. We have the following: nodding, pointing, using fingers to represent numbers, and eye contact. These 4 nonverbal communication were the most common ones and were found in both of the videos. We have other examples that can be found in either the first one or the second one. They are distance, using their hands to signal a plan, using their fingers to signal something small, using hands to represent a piece of paper.
We also have using the palm to represent the paper and pointing to the bottom, moving both hands up and down, showing both hands, moving wrist from side to side, and moving hand inviting to enter.
Conclusion. Teachers use nonverbal communication to clarify concepts when giving instructions or when they want students to produce the language. Also, students seem to know when to respond according to their teacher's nonverbal communication. Finally, according to the videos, the teachers are the ones who initiate the transaction or exchange using nonverbal communication, and the students are the ones to respond.
We have some final observations. We identified that the teacher talking time was at the same time as the nonverbal communication, and we consider that it is good for teachers to rely only on the nonverbal communication so that students' talking time increases.
Finally, related to our investigation, we have a quote, and it says, "Body language is a very powerful tool. We had body language before we had speech, and apparently 80% of what you understand in a conversation is read through the body, not the words." And this is by Deborah Bull.
To conclude, we would like to thank both teachers that allowed us in their classrooms. Gerardo and Almendra, thank you very much.